You're thinking about those companies, the ones that feel like they're just going to be around forever, like they've got this magic formula, that monthly fee just ticking away.
Yeah.
We're diving deep into that today, looking at what makes that model so powerful. And it all comes down to this thing called customer lifetime value, CLV for short.
Yeah.
And simply put, CLV is the total profit a business can expect to make from you, from
Yeah.
one single customer over your whole relationship with them.
Right.
So for a company like Netflix, we're talking about all those monthly subscription fees you pay month after month, year after year.
That's right.
Adds up, right?
It really does.
We've got some great material to unpack for this deep dive, a really insightful video lecture and a super detailed presentation all about marketing analytics. And guess what? They both focus on CLV.
Nice.
But our mission here isn't to give you a finance lecture or anything like that. No, we want to understand why CLV is such a big deal, a key metric, and how companies, the really smart ones, actually use it to make decisions.
Excellent.
Let's be honest, it's hard to ignore just how many subscription services we all use these days, right? I mean, it feels like everything is a subscription now. You got Disney plus Netflix,
Yeah.
Netflix, even Microsoft Office. Remember those days of actually buying the software on a disc?
Yeah, I remember those.
Gone, right?
Mhm.
Now it's all Office 365,
Yeah.
Spotify, Zoom. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. So what's fueling this, subscription explosion?
Well, at the core of it, there's one really appealing thing for businesses, and that's recurring, predictable cash flow.
Okay.
Let's think about Netflix again.
All right.
Say you're paying, let's throw out a number, $20 a month for that premium subscription.
Yeah.
That's a reliable $240 every year coming in from you.
Right.
Now imagine multiplying that by millions of subscribers. You
Yeah.
start to see why that predictability is so valuable.
It completely changes the game.
Yeah.
Instead of always wondering if a customer is going to buy again,
Yeah.
which is what those businesses that rely on one-time transactions have to deal with constantly. Subscriptions, they create this steady stream of revenue.
Yeah.
It's almost like, as one of our sources puts it, the customer's handing us money on a schedule.
Yeah.
That kind of dependable income, that's a game changer.
Huge for a business. But it gets even more interesting.
Oh,
We can't just take that annual $240 and assume it's going to keep coming in forever at full value. There's more to it.
okay.
The first thing we need to consider is something you might have heard about, maybe in a finance class. It's the time value of money.
Okay, time value of money. I mean, it sounds kind of complicated.
It's really not. The basic idea is that money you have right now, today, is worth more than the same amount you might get later on down the road.
Really? Why is that?
Our source actually gives a great example. So let's say you have $10 today and you can earn, say, 10% interest annually. In just 1 year, that $10 grows to $11. Now, if you let that keep going for 6 years, your original $10 would be worth about $17.70.
Why? Okay.
So that future money, it doesn't have the same buying power for you today.
Right, because it has all this potential to grow in the meantime.
Exactly. So how does this tie back to those recurring Netflix fees?
Yeah.
Well, if Netflix is getting $240 from you a year from now because of this whole time value thing, that $240, it's not actually worth the full $240 in today's dollars.
I see.
We got to account for that. And to do that, we use something called discounting. Our source shows us that if you were to get $10 a year from now and apply a 10% discount rate, it's only worth about $9.09 today. So when we're figuring out that true customer lifetime value, all those future payments from your subscription, we have to adjust them, discount them to show what they're really worth right now today.
Makes sense. It's like saying in finance, now is better than the future, which is a key idea from our sources.
Absolutely.
So what's the next important piece of this CLV puzzle? What else do we have to think about?
The second crucial component is all about customer loyalty, or maybe more accurately, the fact that customers, well, they don't always stick around. They might switch to a competitor that's offering a better deal. Their needs could change. Maybe they just decide they don't need the service anymore. This is what we call churn. Customers leaving or canceling their subscriptions.
So even though we've got that nice, predictable $240 coming in every year, we got to remember, there's a chance they might not be subscribing next year or the year after that.
Exactly. It's not a sure thing.
It's not a guarantee.
And the CLV calculation, it has to take into account how long, on average, those customers stay with the business.
Okay.
One of our sources had this really good illustration. Imagine a customer pays $10 now,
Right.
but there's a 20% annual churn rate, meaning 20% of customers leave each year.
Yeah.
So by the end of 6 years, that customer who paid $10 at the beginning, Their expected value to the business drops all the way down to about $2.60.
Wow, that's a big difference.
The uncertainty of them staying subscribed, it really changes their long-term value.
So a 20% churn rate also means an 80% retention rate, the customers who don't leave.
Hmm.
It seems like both those numbers, they're super important for figuring out the long-term health of these subscription businesses.
Absolutely. And this leads us to that third core principle we need to keep in mind, and it's a simple one. More is better than less.
Makes sense.
If a business can get a customer to pay more, maybe by offering a higher priced premium tier than that customer's CLV, well, it's going to go up.
Makes sense. More revenue per customer per month, that translates to more value over the entire time they're with the company.
Hmm.
So what other ways can businesses actually try to increase their CLV?
Well, growing the customer base, getting more subscribers, that's an obvious way to boost the total CLV for the company.
Right.
And one of our sources also mentioned something really interesting, the idea of setting up different pricing tiers, segmenting their customers and offering various subscription packages at different prices.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, that's a whole other area we could dive into.
Yeah, maybe for another deep dive. So let's
Yep.
recap those three key ideas behind CLV.
Right.
First, now is better than the future, which highlights that time value of money.
Right.
Second, sure is better than uncertain, showing how important churn and retention are.
Yep.
And lastly, more is better than less, focusing on increasing how much each customer pays and getting more customers overall.
Those are the big ones.
Okay, so we have a pretty good grasp on what CLV is and why all these things matter, but how do companies actually put this knowledge to work?
This is where it gets real. Our sources actually have some great real-world examples.
Okay, let's hear them.
First, let's look at how CLV helps with decision-making. Imagine that same video streaming company we were talking about before. They've done their calculations and figured out their average CLV is $360. Now, they're thinking about offering a 1-month free trial to try to get some new subscribers.
Free trials, they're everywhere these days. What kind of costs are we talking about for the company to do that?
Well, just to get people to know about the free trial, they figure they'll need to spend about $300 per new customer on advertising and marketing.
Okay.
And then the free trial itself, with all the content being streamed, that's going to cost them about $3 per customer. So their total estimated cost to get a new customer through this free trial, it comes to 303 trials.
So they're putting down $303 up front, hoping that those free trial folks are going to become paying subscribers and stay long enough to make it all worthwhile. How does CLV help them decide if that's a good move?
They compare the cost of getting a new customer to the predicted CLV.
Right.
In this case, the CLV is $360 and it costs them $303 to acquire them. Since $360 is bigger than $303, the free trial looks like a good investment. They can reasonably expect to make more money from each customer over their lifetime than they spent to get them in the door.
That really shows how powerful CLV is. It's not just a theoretical number, it's a tool for making smart marketing decisions.
That's right.
What's another way companies use CLV?
The second major way CLV comes into play is in figuring out the overall value of the company, what we often call firm value. Let's go back to that video streaming company, the one with a $360 CLV. And let's say they have a stable base of, 150 million subscribers.
150 million. That's a huge customer
Yeah.
base. How does CLV help us understand what that company might be worth?
Remember those financial concepts we talked about? Well, a company's value is basically the total present value of all the future profits it's expected to make.
Okay.
Since we know the CLV, that estimated profit from each customer over time, we can get an idea of the company's potential market capitalization by multiplying the CLV by the total number of subscribers.
Okay.
So in this example, 360 times 150 million subscribers gives us a potential market cap of $54 billion.
That's a lot of money. So CLV isn't just about what happens with each individual customer. It gives us a really important piece of information for understanding the overall financial health and potential of a business.
Exactly.
Our source even suggested that you, our listener, could look at a company like Netflix, consider their different subscription tiers and how many subscribers they have, and try to estimate their firm value using this basic CLV principle.
That's a really cool exercise.
Yeah, it's a cool way to put this into practice.
Definitely. And it highlights how this idea of CLV, it's simple on the surface, but it has some pretty big implications for all sorts of things in business, from making smart choices about marketing to predicting financial performance and even figuring out how much a company is worth in the market.
So just to wrap things up, we explored what customer lifetime value is. the total profit a customer brings over their whole journey. We talked about how subscription models, they love those predictable revenue streams.
They do.
But we also learned that to get the true CLV, we got to factor in the time value of money and that customer churn, the fact that people leave. And finally, we saw how CLV, it's not just some abstract idea. It's a really powerful tool for making informed choices about marketing strategies and even for understanding a company's potential value.
And thinking about that, if we look at a company like Netflix with all their different content and their global reach, what kind of challenges do you think they face when they try to calculate a truly accurate CLV for their whole diverse user base? Think about all the factors beyond just the monthly fee, things like different subscription costs in different countries, how different groups of people use their service differently, and how churn rates can change in different markets.
Right.
It quickly becomes clear that a single CLV number, it's kind of a simplification of a much more complicated reality.
Definitely something to think about. Thanks for diving deep into CLV with us today.
My pleasure.
See you next time.
Sounds good.